What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Deep Dig Sports Pod. I'm your host, Drew, with my other host right here next to me.
What's up? It's D. Good to see you again. We have a packed show today, so things are starting to move in the NFL. The combine just ended. Quarterbacks are on the move.
That carousel is carouseling.
Are staying where they're at. The 49ers have a couple of transactions that they're looking to do. But before we get into all that, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to the pod, whether it be here on YouTube or an audio version. We have that on Spotify, Apple Podcast, all those good things. Just be sure to follow. It really helps out.
Yeah, guys, we are getting some subscribers, a lot of comments lately. Keep them coming. We got more content coming every week this offseason. But today, 49ers got some rumors. We're going to start there because there was a report that said Baker Mayfield might be interested in the 49ers. So the 49ers actually should be interested in signing Baker Mayfield. I believe that was Albert Breer.
It was Breer.
And so what do you think about a move of 49ers bringing in Mayfield and Mayfield wanting to come to San Francisco? Is that a possibility? Is that out of the question?
If I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm just staying with the Rams. Why wouldn't you want to be Matthew Stafford's backup, knowing Matthew Stafford's arm fell off last year pretty much? And, you have that opportunity to actually start games, to work with Sean McVay, who, everyone sees as this great offensive mind. Just stay there where you're familiar. You've already won a couple games. I would do that if I was him. Why not? As far as the move to San Francisco, I personally don't see it. You have Christian McCaffrey there. You have Nick Bosa, just two guys who aren't the biggest Baker Mayfield fans. And they're two of the biggest stars on the team. So why even roll the dice? Why do that? If I'm Baker, I would just stay with, the Rams. And if I'm the 49ers, I'm looking at it and I'm like, what do we have to gain here? Not really a whole lot of upside with Baker Mayfield. You've seen him at his best. I'm not a fan.
I mean, to me, I think Baker Mayfield can be a starting quarterback for certain teams in the league. I don't see the connection with staying with the Rams because the cap space with Matt Stafford, that team is falling off next season even harder because they're letting all their veteran defensive players go. With the 49ers, I don't really see it either. The cap space still not good here. Who's to say he plays good and then Brock Purdy comes back and now we have a whole situation on our hands? Who's to say that he plays terrible and we just wasted money on a quarterback when we could have just rolled Trey Lance out? We're just going to muddy the waters of our quarterback room with Baker Mayfield. Not saying it'd be a bad thing bringing him in, but it wouldn't be a net positive to me.
I think his play in Carolina just shows he's not good enough to be a starter. I don't think he's good enough to be a starter.
I think he's good enough to be a starter on a team that's established, that has weapons, where he can just go and be a regular guy. He doesn't have to elevate them. And that's why the Saints was not a good option for him. We'll talk about that. But where I think he should look into going, if he's not going to go to a Arizona and be a bridge quarterback or somewhere like that, he should look into going to Miami because they're out on Tua. They said they're going to look at options of maybe moving him. You could go there and come in like that. Oh, I'm going to be the bridge guy, but potentially win over the job. If you could stay healthy and play on the same level of just consistency as Tua was when he was, throwing slant routes to Jalen Waddle, I think that's a good spot for Baker.
See, I would go Buffalo. I would do the Mitch Trubisky route. Hey, you know what? I'm going to stay here for a year. I'm going to fly under the radar, and then I'm going to go be a starter. I'm going to go make starter money because they've seen, hey, I'm fine being the backup. I've honed in my skills. I've learned from Josh Allen, and then let's go make a bag. That's what I would do if I was Baker. I wouldn't immediately hop in because you're not that good. You know what I mean? You're just not that good. The best thing for Baker is to just sit on the sideline, out of sight, out of mind, and then a year from now, people are like, hey, remember Baker Mayfield? You remember the number one pick in the draft? He was actually, there's so much potential with him. I could make it work. So they're going to overpay on that. That's the thing with quarterbacks is when they are out of sight, out of mind, and they still have a reputation of you were the number one pick in the draft, that means something. And you can get a contract without actually being that good. Again, Mitch Trubisky goes to the Bills, sits out a year, then gets a starting deal with the Steelers.
Yeah, I think it's really what route does Baker want to take? Does he want to be a starter for sure next year, where he goes to like an Arizona for most of the season, a Houston and Atlanta, where they just need a guy. And you're not gonna, win an MVP or go to the playoffs, but you can showcase your skills as a starter and keep your career going. Or do you want to go be a backup for a year and learn and really show like you can be a team guy and maybe be a bridge for a few years for a different team, or just go compete? I think Baker's a guy that wants to go compete, and that's why I think the Miami thing is really where he could be best suited. They got the weapons. They got plenty of good players for him to look good in camp. But let's go to another rumor. Phillip Rivers is in the news for some reason. I think it was it Duff Kleiman that reported this?
No, it was Rich Eisen.
Rich, I should say. And I saw that they said they heard from multiple people at the combine that Phillip Rivers is going around saying that he's ready. He can come in for a team. And he specifically went to the 49ers and said that he can come and help this team.
It was the 49ers and the Dolphins. Apparently, towards the end of last season, he came back and told them, like, you need me, I'm here. Which they should have had him out there rather than Josh fucking Johnson. How ridiculous is that? But anyways, I like Phillip Rivers. I think that getting him doesn't hurt, Trey Lance's ego. It still, you need, again, just arms in preseason. You need arms in training camp. Brock Purdy's going to be out for the foreseeable future. We'll see how his surgery goes. Maybe he's out for the entire year. Maybe it's just a few weeks right up until the start of the regular season. But either way, he's going to be out. You're going to need, arms. Why not a Phillip Rivers, who is a veteran quarterback who took the Colts to the playoffs? And we've seen since then, they've been trying to recreate that magic, and they just haven't. It's fallen off a cliff. So I like him. I like what he can do. I like his competitive edge. I like that he's actually had an entire year to rest his body. His arm did look pretty shot towards the end there, but if he says he's good to go, at least give him a workout, try it out.
I'm in the opposite camp where I think he's done. I don't want Phillip Rivers coming and messing up this team. It would have been nice to have him last year at the end of the season when Brock Purdy goes down, obviously, but who knows how that would have shook, Brock Purdy and that quarterback room and Trey Lance already last season. I think Brock Purdy is a pretty strong-minded guy, but bringing in the quarterback does tell you, oh, well, we don't believe in this guy. Even though that's why they didn't bring in Phillip Rivers. They completely believed in Brock Purdy, and you just rolled the dice on his health. But going to this season, if you need arms, bring in like Chris Streveler or like some random guy. Phillip Rivers isn't an arm. He's going to come in looking for a full-time, full-season job.
No, he's not.
He is. He's telling.
He just wants a ring, bro.
So that's why. Why would he come back? Why would he come back to be a backup? He's coming back to win a ring himself.
No, I'm guaranteeing you, he'd be fine just riding the bench, being that guy. I think so, bro. Like, why would he's not the fucking guy anymore? He knows he's not the guy. He literally sat out an entire year, but
he didn't come
a guy who can play 2 to 3
He didn't come to
the
Niners last season to come and be the bench.
He came to play 2 to 3 games, which is
and
what
win a
he's
Super Bowl.
2 to 3 games. That's it. That's all he came for. 2 to 3 games. That's it. And
yeah,
honestly,
but if we sign him at the beginning of this season, it wouldn't be for 2 or 3 games. He'd be like, I'm better than these guys. I want to be the starter this season.
I doubt he's better than Brock Purdy. He's not better than Brock Purdy.
But he thinks he's better than
He might be better than Trey Lance. Like, who knows? But
he's not coming here to be a second or third string quarterback on a team.
Yeah, he is. If he's going to come back,
he's no Chad Henne.
Guaranteed he's not starting. Like, where, if he's going somewhere, is he going to start? Where? Tell me where he's going to start.
That's what I'm telling you. He's not a starter. He shouldn't come back.
Okay, then he's going to come back and ride the bench.
No, you're saying he's going to come back.
A depth guy.
There's no way he comes back to be Brock Purdy's backup. He's coming for the job.
No, I'm guaranteed
he wouldn't get it.
Wants to help reload and get a ring.
Let us know in the comments. Do you think Phillip Rivers is coming back to be a backup, or do you think he's coming in to be a starter? Let us know. Like, I think there's no way he's coming to be a backup. Why would you be this old and this retired and be like, well, I'm thinking about making a comeback for the bench?
Bro, he thinks that, well, there is a very good possibility that the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers is going to get hurt for however long length of time that is, be it 3 games, be it 4 games, be it the rest of the season. That's what he wants. He wants to sit there and wait, not play a whole season, but wait for those key opportunities when a quarterback is injured. And guess what? He's the next guy
So
up.
then why not wait until after the trade deadline next season and then be like, well, whoever wants me, come get me? Because why would he put his body through every week and just to be like, hey, remember that playoff run where I played week 6 and 7 and then I sat the bench the rest of the year? He ain't coming out of retirement for that. There's no fucking
All
way.
right. I mean, he would still get a ring. Like,
Do you think if Ben Roethlisberger came back right now for a season, he would be
no.
he'd be a starter or a bench player?
There's no, if the fucking Steelers are telling you, Ben, you're retiring,
But
there's no way that
as
he's
someone
coming back.
like in that discussion, in that level, that was a great quarterback. If he came back, do you think he would want to be a bench player or a starter?
He would have to be a bench player. That's what.
But what would he want to be?
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. That's what teams are telling you. That's why he had to fucking.
And that's why he
retire.
wouldn't come back because no team is gonna tell. No
But
team is
then
gonna
why
tell
is
Phillip Rivers.
coming back. If he says, "Hey, I want to come back," and the teams are telling him, like, "Hey, like you would be a backup," and he still wants to come back, then he wants to be a backup.
I don't know. I have to see more. I don't know. I don't even know if he even has it in him. You say he got a year of rest, so he's healthier. I say he got a year older. So,
All right. Yep.
let us know in the comments. Let us know how you feel about Phillip Rivers. Okay, we're moving on.
Who would have known Phillip Rivers is a hot button
I
issue for
love
this?
Phillip Rivers. I don't know why you're making me so mad.
You chose to hate on him.
I just feel good about the 49ers roster as is, okay? Robbie Gould.
Goodbye, Robbie.
Goodbye, Robbie.
Hats off to you, bud.
You did great. You're a great kicker for us for a long time. He's going to look at other options. He's not coming back next year, but I'd say, never say never. Who knows what his market's really going to be? And then Kyle just, last second brings it back. But what do you think about Robbie leaving? Is it devastating? Is an easy fix? Do we draft someone? What do you think?
Kickers are hard, dude. Especially like super clutch kickers that like when it comes to nut cutting time, like are up for the challenge. That's not something like that's a dime a dozen. That's not something that you find, every day. So it's gonna be tough, dude. Like Robbie played at a high clip when it mattered the most. It's gonna be very, very hard to replace that. But I think like a kicker that can put it through the end zone, consistently on kickoff and who has a good power leg to get it through would be cool. Like I know that there are kickers like that, but when it comes down to like the great kickers, it's all about the mental and how they're able to like really kind of put themselves into the zone. And Robbie was just able to do that. So it's going to be tough. I think either way, we're going to see a fall off with that kicking unit.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying, oh, they're going to draft a kicker now, maybe even in the third round. But what I think the 49ers don't like to take chances on kickers in the draft. They just don't have a track record of drafting kickers. Especially, like, you don't know if you're going to get an Evan McPherson or you're going to get Robert Aguayo. Like, you can completely miss on a kicker and then you're stuck with him. And then you just end up doing what you would normally do is go get a veteran kicker who's been cycled through the system. And that's fully what I expect the 49ers to do. I mean, we found like Robbie Gould was a solid kicker and we brought him. He was amazing for us for 6 years. We had Joe Nedney for a long time, Phil Dawson. I just expect us to go get an older guy who can still play for like 7 more years and do the same thing that we did with Robbie Gould. Just, hey, he's consistent, whatever. He's going to hit some playoff field goals, so let's go get that guy. So I fully expect that. The list of kickers in free agency right now isn't terrible. I think there's a lot of pretty good names.
I would be if you're like gun to my head. Who's the free agent kicker? I wouldn't know, but yeah, I mean, it just comes to a point where you're with this team. Can you really spend like $7 million on a kicker? No, it just doesn't make sense. Even though like it is going to be a valuable piece moving forward, you just can't do it. You can't do it. So
a couple of names: Mason Crosby, Matt Prater, Greg Zuerlein, Matt Gay. Greg Joseph,
Randy Bullock,
Chase McLaughlin from Indy, Eddie Pinero is a name I heard thrown around a lot because of the connection with Carolina and our defense coordinator.
Yep, I would go out and get Mason Crosby because he can like kick in cold weather in Green Bay. Like I would do that where you're like realistically where your playoff game is going to be. More than likely, they're going to be in the cold. So let's just do that.
Just who do you guys think should be a kicker? Is it insert veteran kicker's name here
Or draft a guy.
or draft a guy? Because I'm leaning towards pick up a guy who's been here, who can make some clutch kicks. I don't really feel good about spending a 5th or 4th round pick in this draft on a kicker and rolling the dice.
No, go with the tried and true. Go with the veteran. Let's just, get it out of the way. That's one less thing to worry about. Can this guy kick? This guy could kick.
All right. Staying in the division, the Seahawks have their guy. Finally, they called him. He answered back. Geno Smith, just inked a deal. What was 3 years?
3 years, 105 mil.
All right. So what does this mean for the Seahawks that they're committing to Pete Carroll and Geno Smith?
I think they're going to build a solid ass team, dude. And it's not that Geno Smith is like a world beater. It's that Geno Smith is actually a decent quarterback. And this is going to look in probably next offseason, even like a steal, because it's not a make or break contract. They're not paying Russell Wilson money to this guy. So it actually looks decent. I think that they can continue to just build out the team around him and even pivot if they do like field calls for a Lamar Jackson or like someone pops up on their draft board that they absolutely need. Like, I think this is kind of perfect, like best of both worlds. You can pivot off of Geno, but realistically, like you're fine rolling into the season. This guy is a serviceable starting quarterback in the league.
Yeah, I love the move for them. I think this is the second best team in the NFC West for sure. They have a lot of great young pieces. They played hard last year. The Rams are going to be worse. The Cardinals are going to be worse. And this team it doesn't fully scare me, but they scare me a little bit, to where if we got them in a wild card round, the 49ers against the Seahawks, it'd be a tough matchup with Kenneth Walker another year in, DK and Tyler Lockett still doing their thing, and Geno just fits perfectly with what they're trying to do. And then their secondary has some good young pieces. This still leaves them in position if a guy like Bryce Young falls to the first round, and they can trade up and get him. Like, they can sit him for 2 years and see, or they can, if Anthony Richardson, who blew people away at the combine, still goes in that mid-first round area, who's to say they don't trade up and get one of these guys, Do you think all of those quarterbacks are going to go like top 8, top 5?
No, the guy who I do see like kind of falling down with a little like is CJ Stroud, just because Bryce Young in all actuality should be QB1 in this draft, but Anthony Richardson just showed out in the combine. So if you're looking for a freak athlete, that would be the one. Like, so it's Bryce Young, then Anthony Richardson in my book, then CJ Stroud. I think if they do love CJ Stroud, it's not unheard of to actually move up in the draft and go and get him.
They have the 5th pick and they have 20th pick. I just said the mid draft because I don't see them drafting in the top 5 a quarterback when they just signed Geno. I was figuring they get a really good guy, maybe a defensive piece at 5, and that 20th pick move up a bit and see who drops.
Yeah. Maybe Will Levis drops. I mean, he looked good. He had a cannon in the combine. So.
Oh, yeah, he's throwing the ball pretty hard.
I throw hard.
But yeah, I don't know if all these guys are going to go top 7, top 6.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're going to see a little bit less of a run than everyone's expecting on these quarterbacks. But yeah, I mean, it does leave open opportunity if they did want to move up to mid first round. Like, it's not unheard of. And I think they could, sit someone a year or two if they fall in love with them during this process.
And I mean, who's to say next year? There's a pretty good quarterback class coming. So this definitely leaves the Seahawks in a good spot to be good now and to be good in the future and potentially better.
And realistically, they don't have a lot of holes on that team. Like, their offensive line, they got 2 tackles last year in the draft, and they just played the shit out of them. They just let them have at it, and you get better by taking reps. So they're going to be probably worlds better than what they started at last season. Their D-line can actually, beef up, which I would use a bunch of picks on that D-line and linebacking core. But their secondary actually looks pretty good, and their offensive weapons are not bad at all. And this is a deep tight end draft. So if you want to pick up another tight end, then perfect.
Yeah, and if they were at number 5 to get the Georgia guy who just got arrested,
Jalen Carter.
Jalen Carter, that's a pretty solid piece to add to this defense at the 5th pick, where this guy was talked about getting the number 1 spot.
Yeah,
So-
well, even that, between him and Will Anderson, like, one of them is probably going to be left on the board at
Just
5.
because all the quarterbacks going
Yeah.
top 4, top 3.
I'm feeling pretty hopeful if I'm the Seahawks.
And I'm feeling pretty worried if I'm the 49ers.
I mean, but there's still 2 ducks there in the Rams and the Cardinals, so feel pretty good there.
All right, well, let's move on to our last topic today. Derek Carr shocked the world, signed with the New Orleans Saints after he was kind of, wined and dined and not 69 million guaranteed by the Jets. He went to the Saints kind of last second. What do you think about the decision by Derek Carr and the move from the Saints?
I think it was always going to be the Saints. I think that from the beginning, it was, okay, well, can a team beat what the Saints are going to offer me? Because he already met with them before he'd even gotten released. So I think they gave him a number, and he was going to go search out if I can get a better number. And realistically, like, I don't think the Jets were just ready to commit with Aaron Rodgers still on the board. So it left him like, okay, well, I'm going to go where they actually do want me. They are willing to commit, and that's the Saints. And I think that's a much better fit stylistically. It's a much better fit market-wise. I think it's just a better fit overall for Derek. And we've seen guys that are veterans that are not really that consistent have success there in a Andy Dalton, in a Jameis Winston. I think Derek Carr is actually much better than both of those guys, so I think he's going to have a year.
I think for the Jets, Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers are both pipe dreams. Like, I didn't see them getting any of these guys, and that's why they were pushing so hard to recruit Derek Carr. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to either stay in Green Bay or go to Vegas. And so, I mean,
What did Derek Carr?
Aaron Rodgers is going to go to Vegas or he's going to stay in Green Bay. So who do the Jets go with now? They're going to have to run it back with Zach Wilson, probably pay Mike White some money because he's a free agent who should get some backup quarterback offers elsewhere. And, I mean, Derek Carr, he needs to be what everything the Jets said that he was in New Orleans. He needs to be a great quarterback because this team is not built. It's really in a tough position cap-wise. He helped them out by getting guaranteed money and pushing that number back. But their defense isn't put together yet. Their offense has struggled. I don't know how good they're very much reliant on Derek Carr being a good quarterback for them to be a good team, rather than being a good team that added a quarterback.
See, and the way I see it, it's kind of the opposite. He doesn't need to be a great quarterback in order to make the playoffs, especially in that division. He steps into the division as the best quarterback in the NFC South.
Yeah, true.
Who's better than him? Desmond Ridder? Nope. Sam Howell? Nope. Can't even name a Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback. So,
oh, you mean Carolina? They don't even have a guy. Sam Howell's in Washington.
Oh yeah. Who's fucking
PJ
Carolina?
Walker?
PJ Walker.
Yeah.
Fucking yeah. No. What's Matt Corral? That's
Corral.
who it is.
Mm.
Matt Corral.
Sam Howell, Matt Corral, same thing.
Yeah. But he steps into the NFC South and is the best quarterback hands down. So I think just with that, and if they can play really good defense, which they've been doing over the past, couple of years, they're set. That's a playoff. That's a ticket to the playoffs right there. They just punched it. So count on it.
It's going to be interesting to see how he works with Taysom Hill, because Taysom Hill is a great piece on any offense, I believe, and I think they need to use him more. Like, he's such a great weapon. And does Michael Thomas stay now?
Yeah, I think he stays.
Kamara stay? Is he going to get suspended for whatever he did?
Piece of shit.
But yeah, the offense has some pieces. They just did not look too great last year. And Michael Thomas is still a big question mark. Taysom Hill, I think, is a question mark working with Derek Carr. And now I think Jameis Winston is the next domino in the quarterback not the next one, but he is a key domino in this quarterback carousel because you still have Jimmy G and Aaron Rodgers. But where does Jameis Winston go?
Right.
He's gonna get cut. I think there was a number like post June 12th. If he gets cut, they save 12 mil. If he gets cut now, it's like they save 4 mil. But there can be trades. They can cut him now, whatever. But
So-
where does he go?
I think that Jameis is going to be very, very tough. I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to say like
You feel some TikToks?
you've already kind of done the Chad Henne thing because you needed someone to really mentor Pat Mahomes and like get him through what being a veteran is and things like that, right? So you've already done that. Now it's time to kind of take a flyer on a guy for very, very cheap, create that reclamation project, and then send him out into the fucking world. Or what if Pat Mahomes get hurt? Then Jameis Winston sitting there. If he can just this is the one thing with Jameis. He's going to be pretty reckless with the ball, given the amount of attempts he's going to have. And that's what kind of like Andy Reid's not afraid of that. Andy Reid will let someone let it rip. If you have more touchdowns than interceptions, he's going to be fine with it. So I think that kind of fits what they're doing. And you don't need another veteran guy to fucking hold Pat Mahomes' hand. Pat Mahomes instead now can turn around and be like, hey, you know what? I got you. This is how we do things in this offense. And I think that really will help build, your stock. If you're Jameis Winston, I would go there.
A couple things I'll throw out here. A couple teams. I kind of like that. I like that idea. The Lions. I think he matches their work ethic. He's always posting those workout videos. He's a little bit of a weird guy. I would love to see him and Jamal Williams together, and him just back up Goff. And who knows, Goff gets hurt. Jameis is the guy that step in and really help this young team. And I mean, say what you will about Jameis, he is a hardworking guy, and he shows a lot of passion when he's on the field and in the locker room. So I think that matches up good with Dan Campbell. And maybe that's something Dan Campbell could tap into and be like, hey, well, let's focus in on some of these mistakes and like really lock into your mental side of the game. Philadelphia, I think as a backup Jalen Hurts, if Jalen Hurts were to go down, I could see him slinging it to A.J. Brown down the field.
Yeah. He did it with Mike Evans.
And as a big fuck you to Lamar Jackson, bringing him to Baltimore. And that's a team that doesn't want to commit to Lamar for some reason. And they could be like, well, if you don't want to be here, Lamar, we got Jameis Winston for a year and we'll figure it out. So there's a couple options. I mean, even Arizona, who's Arizona's quarterback going to be? That's what I keep. But like, who's their offense coordinator and who's their quarterback next year? Because Kyler Murray's hurt.
Yeah.
So if I'm a guy who's a veteran quarterback who has no job right now, I'm calling Arizona.
And be like, hey, what's up?
Who do I need to be for the job?
Yeah.
There's no one there.
David Blau? Is
Yeah.
David Blau still there? Because he looked decent. He looked good.
Stop it.
He did. He had that, what is it? The reverse pass or the end around pass. That was pretty good.
All right. Well, let's know. Oh, wait. Before we go, now I wanted to get into last thing here. What does Derek Carr going to the Saints do for Jimmy G's market now?
All right. So we kind of had this conversation off camera. Do you think Jimmy G gets more or less than Derek Carr now?
I think he gets less because he's a very injury-prone guy. He didn't play at the end of the last season, so like you can kind of use that against him in like negotiations. Like, well, we don't know what you look like, and Derek Carr, that was his number, and we think you're a little bit less than Derek Carr.
I would say he gets more.
You think the frenzy that was supposed to be for Derek Carr now turns to Jimmy G's free agent frenzy where he's meeting with everyone and it's kind of a hunt for he's the last, I think, completely viable starting quarterback for next year on the market.
Yeah, and I think that Derek Carr kind of did fuck himself by not meeting with multiple teams. He just met with the Jets and the Saints. That's it. If I was Derek Carr, I would have set up camp. I would be like, you guys go find me at the combine. Like, let's go. But rather than kind of fitting that frenzy and being like, hey, like, what's up? Like, he just didn't. He just stuck to, I want either the Jets or the Saints. Like, I'm faithful. Let's do this. And I think Jimmy G doesn't give a fuck. Like, I think Jimmy will put it out there because look at like his agent is fine with like putting out stories and being like, hey, we've talked to this team, we've talked to that team. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans, the Jets, the even the Panthers look at him. Just he starts to sniffing around because there's only one Aaron Rodgers, and if you're not within that top crux, you're not getting a quarterback in the draft. So you're just Jimmy's looking like, well, what are you going to do? Not pay me? You're going to go with, you know what I mean? Go ahead, go with Jameis. But we've seen that he throws 30 interceptions in the fucking season.
I think this is a 3-horse race for Jimmy Garoppolo now. I think Carolina, I think Houston, and I don't think the Jets think they're in it. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to end up settling for Jimmy G.
Okay, well, again, a team that completely doesn't have a quarterback, the Bucks. What are they going to do? What are they don't have a draft pick that's going to net them a extremely good quarterback.
So they could bring back Jameis?
Yeah, I doubt it. So that kind of brings that kind of tanks that market.
It's going to be interesting to see. We're going to cover it as we go, but wide open for Jimmy Garoppolo now. I think he needs to send a big thank you basket to Derek Carr for signing this deal right now, because any team now is looking to Jimmy G as the next domino to fall.
The Commanders, there's so many teams
Sam
that
Howell, bro. Sam Howell's the guy.
Did you see after that
they were like, whoa,
that was the QB1 to start like the off season. That doesn't mean we're rolling with this guy. This is not the starter. So I think there's more teams that are going to start to evaluate their own QB room and be like, we can't roll this out. Like, we just cannot roll out with Jets. We can't roll out Desmond Ridder again without a viable backup option. We can't roll out Sam Howell without a viable backup option.
It's just telling to me that Robert Saleh hasn't mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo once and the Jets aren't interested at all, when that's an automatic connection that he was in San Francisco and Jimmy G was there. So that's telling me,
but
maybe
also,
this part of the
it's
market.
not little LaFleur anymore in there.
But still, it's a guy that he was in the same building with him every day. Maybe he's not interested in Jimmy G.
The new OC has like some ideas. He's like, hey, I think I can pull Rodgers, buddy.
I don't think they're getting Rodgers, but we'll see. Let us know in the comments, where do you think Jimmy G is going to play? Go and like, comment, subscribe. We're going to be dropping new stuff every week, and we appreciate y'all listening.
Thanks, guys. Later.